We are back in the basement today to talk about the 24 hours in the Old Pueblo race. I'm going to do a little recap of that race. It's been almost a month now. I have had a cold since then. We've had our house being worked on, so it's been too noisy up in here. And but now I'm going to be able to talk about it. So first off, 24 Hours in the Old Pueblo is a 24-hour race that takes place in the desert north of Tucson. 24-hour race is a race where you ride as much as you can for 24 hours. And usually the finish is you have to still be out riding during the 24-hour mark. So this race happens from noon on Saturday to noon on Sunday. So you have to be on the course at noon on Sunday, and then as long as you finish that lap after noon, you will be considered a finisher of the race. I'll put a link below to their site, and they do a much better job than I did of describing it. So in a 24-hour race, there are a variety of ways you can do it. I did it as a solo participant. You can do it as a two-man team, all the way up to, I think, an 8 or a 10-person team. And you can mix, all men team, all women team, or a mixed gender team. So, but I did it as a solo participant. So that just meant that I went round and round on the course as many times as I could in the 24-hour period. You're allowed to leave the course to rest or eat or do whatever. You just have to check in at the start-finish line at every lap. We showed up the Friday evening before the race, and it was raining, and the roads out there, these dirt roads, were covered in mud, and to the point where they had to stop traffic and get a backhoe in there to dig out someplace where the road had been flooded. So that was interesting start to the whole thing. Everybody's got their freshly cleaned bikes that are hanging off the back of their cars and getting coated in dirt and mud from the road. So that was interesting. We're coming in and it's raining, pouring rain, and I don't want to bother the officials because they're super busy. So we kind of drive around the campground, which, or not campground, it's called 24-Hour Town. And it's, I guess about 5,000 people in total end up there, and it's a very small area, so you end up stacked on top of each other as far as camping situation goes. We pulled the 4Runner up and kind of tucked ourselves in between 3 camper trucks or camper trailer situations with a bunch of other trucks around them and some other tents and stuff, and so we were kind of jammed in there. And had I stopped to talk to any of the race officials, I would have found out about Solo Row, which is kind of an unofficial area along the stretch of course that comes along town there, where solo riders frequently set up. And that, I think, would have been a little bit better as far as having like-minded people around us. As it was, I had, I think, the 3 campers were all 4-man teams around us, so they were staying up a little later. They had generators, and it was a little bit louder and stuff than I was really going for, which made resting Friday night a little bit frustrating, but not too terribly bad. Where that kind of came into effect was coming back into town on every lap. I had to ride further than other solo riders were riding to go get to my tent and fuel up and whatnot. So if you ever take place in a 24-hour event, see if there is a solo area if you're a solo rider. Like I said, it was raining when we showed up. It kind of stopped raining as the night wore on, but we woke up to this thick fog laying over the valley, and luckily that all sort of burned off a couple hours before the race started. And we had a riding meeting, and then we lined up for the race. And I'm going to throw to Jason and Moab to tell you what my race plans really were. So,
I guess what was my plan? The plan was to do one lap, go back to camp, eat, and get back on course every 2 hours. For those of you quick with the math, that is 12 laps, which is by no means going to win me that race, but by no means was I there to win that race. Headed down on my 4th lap. Got 3 good laps in before us, and doing a good job of kind of keeping everything in check. So thought I'd bring you guys along on this one. No big disasters yet. I fist bumped a teddy bear cholla, I think they're called. They're the really sharp cactus. They come off very easily. These bundles of them do. I think it's how they spread. I pulled over to let some guys by and I balanced myself on my bike. And then I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but I didn't think that, oh yeah, everything out here is a cactus. I think my brain was like, oh, it's juniper bush, you can run into it. And I just ran fist first into it. And had 4 or 5 in my hand, and then a couple in my leg and 1 in my foot. So there was some loud yelling, followed by fixing it with my teeth, which was gross. This is my heart rate monitor readout. It's an old watch I've got, so that I don't have to run my phone the whole time.
I don't have a power meter on my mountain bike and don't plan on getting one. This is the first and maybe last race where I felt like I needed to meter my output through some kind of external means rather than just a perceived effort sort of meter. So that was a heart rate monitor, and I basically tried to keep my maximum heart rate below 125 and did a pretty good job of that. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but if you understand, heart rate is a reactive value to your effort. So if you sprint up a hill really hard, your heart rate won't peak out until you're at the top, just after you're at the top of the hill and just starting to descend or whatever's after that. So after your largest effort, really. So there were some up and down hills in the course, and I would just try to keep an eye on my heart rate as I finished those hills, mostly as a mental note to be like, okay, that one was either too hard or you could have gone harder on that one. And after a couple of those, I was able to pretty much meter through perceived effort and just check in on my heart. So that's why I had that heart rate on my handlebars. Eventually that pretty flimsy setup I had gave up, and I had to just put it on my wrist.
For this first 6 laps, that worked beautifully. I did my laps, I didn't feel bad. I came in, I ate like I was in some kind of masochistic eating contest, and I'd go back out. So at that point I was eating rice cakes and Go Macro bars and water and Scratch Labs drink mix. And it was doing a really good job. And then at the end of hour 6, or round 6, well, that's not true. At the end of lap 5, we had planned for me to have more real meal, a dinner. I thought it would do good, and I suspect something there was wrong. Not bad, but wrong for working hard for the next 12 hours. And or I ate too much of it, one or the other, I don't know. But anyway, I go out on lap 6, that's a good lap. Lap 7 is a hard lap, but by no means insurmountable. I just could feel things slowing down, and I was like, okay, this is expected. You know, this is not a normal day. And then, so that was lap 7. Lap 8 felt really good, and I stuck to my targets, so I didn't blow up, but I didn't feel bad at all. And then I came in from lap 8, and I drank coconut water, and I think more rice cakes or something. And so this is just about 6:30 in the morning, and I go out and I start doing the lap, and it doesn't feel good. And I start to go up this section of the course called the Bitches. As I started through those, I started to walk up them, and then at the top I started to sit down, which I was in a weird state, and I started to doze off. So that lap, I got halfway through it and had to go back to camp, and I was a mess. I was zombie walking through the course. Everybody, I think I took 2 hours just to do half the lap, something like that. I also had some, it's called lower GI distress. I think that's the fancy way of saying it. And had to do some emergency evacuations. I went to sleep for 2 hours, woke up, felt better, and went back out and did my last lap, so 9 laps in total. And yeah, timed it just right to come in just after 12, and 9 laps is what we ended up with. So not sure what caused that little bit of an issue, but that was a new low for me. That's kind of the feelings of the whole thing. I'm glad I did it. A part of me wants to do it again, but most of me does not. There have been rumblings about maybe a team situation.
So after being home for a couple weeks and really documenting what my symptoms were and how fast they came on, I did some research and found that I'm fairly certain I gave myself a sodium chloride imbalance with the coconut water. That seemed to be the one thing that I had not researched, had made some assumptions on, and then once I did some research on it, I found that taking coconut water during that effort was a really bad idea. So that sort of quick onset shut down, the GI distress, the just some other stuff that I felt at that time. It all kind of pointed to a sodium imbalance versus like a bonk or an exhaustion type of situation, because it really was like a cliff. I was fine. My heart was fine. Everything was everything I could measure was fine until it wasn't, and then it really did fall off a cliff. So pretty certain that I just messed up by taking that coconut water and giving myself an imbalance in a situation where my body was acting very much on everything I was giving it. So in the end, I ended up doing 9 laps. My target was 12. Had I not had that issue, I think I probably would have hit 11 or 12. It would have been like 11 if I had wanted to stop, and 12 if I wanted to push through and get that last lap in. So at 9 laps, that's 155.6 miles total, including all the diversions and stuff to camp and whatnot. My official race time was 24 hours and 10 minutes. That put me at 32nd out of 88 solo riders. Yeah, so according to Strava, I burned 8,397 calories. And there was an elevation change of 8,984 feet. So even though we were out in the desert and there really wasn't a lot of elevation, turns out when we do it a bunch of times over and over, it adds up. So last thing to do is to hang this up.
Alright guys, that's it for the 24 hours in the old Pueblo race. What did I miss? Ask questions down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. And what race do you think I'm doing next? Leave that down in the comments too. Until next time, I'm Jason Bikes. Live life one ride at a time.